Okay, the name of the story is Sonic and the Butterfly. Sonic stretched his arms up over his head, inhaling and then sighing deeply as he did so. It was a beautiful day outside. The sun was shining, the sky was blue with a few white clouds, the forest was alive with the sound of chirping birds, and the air was warm. A perfect day for taking it easy after saving the world so many times, Sonic thought. At the moment, he was sitting underneath a shady tree, enjoying the many sights and sounds that nature had to offer. The hedgehog reached over to a nearby flower, pulled it out from the ground, and held it to his nose. He took a light inhale, the sweet scent filling his nose without making it tickle, and then he exhaled. His eyes fell closed as he smiled, lowering the flower from his face. It couldn't get any more relaxing than this. Just then, something flew close to one of Sonic's ears, which twitched slightly. In a split second, his eyes had popped open. He turned his head to the left, then to the right. What was that? He then looked up, and that was when he saw it. It was a small white butterfly. Oh. A smile appeared on Sonic's face as he watched the insect fly this way and that. It was quite pretty, and the way it flitted around, from this flower to that one, was oddly hypnotic. That is one beautiful butterfly, Sonic said to himself. Just then, the butterfly stopped where she was, although she kept hovering in the air, moving her wings up and down repeatedly. She could have sworn she'd heard someone call her beautiful, but she didn't know who it was. She turned around, seeing the unfamiliar blue hedgehog who was resting beneath the tree, and then she flew over to him. Hey, little guy, Sonic greeted her, gently. Hi. The butterfly didn't seem to respond, but if she did, Sonic didn't seem to hear her or understand her. Then, however, when he least expected it, the butterfly fluttered over to his face, landing right on the tip of his black nose. Sonic couldn't help but chuckle a bit as he blushed and smiled. It always tickled a bit when something touched the top of his nose like this, alive or inanimate. If his mind hadn't been wandering at the time, he could have sworn the butterfly was looking deeply into his eyes. Half a minute went by, and soon Sonic began to feel a tickle in his nose, which began to tremble slightly. About 10 seconds later, the butterfly practically jumped off his nose, darting away to a nearby flower. Sonic lowered his eyelids as his nose continued to twitch. He was going to sneeze. The hedgehog inhaled, moving his neck backward. His eyes fell shut, and his mouth opened with a climactic inhale. Shoot! Sonic brought his neck forwards as he released his sneeze, which came out sounding much quieter than he'd expected. He opened his eyes for a moment, but then closed them again. His head moved back as he inhaled silently. His hand moved up to his opening mouth, and then it happened again. Shoo! Shoo! Sonic released 2 barely audible sneezes into his hand, bringing his upper body forward slightly each time. His nose still feeling a bit itchy, his chest heaved a bit as he gasped once more, and then out came one last sneeze. Achoo! Sonic sat back up, smiling sheepishly as he rubbed his nose with his index finger. Whoops. Bless me. He excused himself with a light sniffle. Even though the butterfly that had tickled his nose had flown away from him, he could still see it traveling from one flower to another. Sonic kept his smile, still rubbing his nose. At least the small insect hadn't made him sneeze too hard, especially compared to other things that he'd sneezed from before. The end.